Action-focused films and series tend to be more about the build-up moments, sometimes making a slow first act and slowly growing its intensity for the end. These movies have over-the-top moments that paid off for all the waiting in the movie, because a sense of danger combined with the timing is what defines this genre, since the expectation of losing everything is what makes the climax so interesting. There are a few examples of 100% action movies, where the rush of danger is always constant, and the exposition moments actually serve to give the audience a moment to breathe. But, for the most part, the media is mostly filled with slow beginnings and fast endings. This pacing is logical, because these moments require more time and money, and a full action film is something not every producer will be willing to do. Curiously enough, the animation media has an easier time doing these kind of shows, since that kind of fast synergy relies more on the way the artist uses the tools at their disposal, and less about resource. Animated media makes us feel more comfortable with over-the-top dialogue, so everything, from the characters to the moments, could be described with action. Some good examples may be series like Kill la Kill and movies like Redline. But there's a flashier series that mixes this with a more western perspective, the Titmouse series Motorcity. The story is about a dystopia controlled by the evil Abraham King, where people live in one of two cities, Detroit Deluxe, where everyone is full into an everything is fine attitude, and Motor City, where rebellious groups trying to free people live, one underneath the other, giving the underground city a claustrophobic effect. Some of the shows Titmouse produces had a distinct focus on young adult entertainment, while being teen-friendly. Megas XLR has old-school geek culture, Metalocalypse hardcore metal references, and Motor City has modified cars. This racing aspect is nothing new in the action media. Still, using speed in narrative could be a tricky thing to do. In this series, action is not only a way to make the plot more interesting, but something that defines the five main characters: Mike, Chuck, Julie, Dodge, and Texas. Mike is a daredevil, putting himself in danger without a second thought, either to do the right thing or just for the sake of it. He's the only one that actually engages in hand-to-hand combat. No, Texas doesn't count, giving him the status of all-around hero. As the leader, he embraces danger as part of his life. He doesn't make second thoughts, which makes the other characters constantly follow him in these situations, giving a sense of constant persecution, like the others are trying to catch up, especially Chuck. Action defines him as pleasure and responsibility, and makes the audience excited to root for him. On the other hand, Chuck is the relatable one, since he always feels the horror of the persecution. The constant fear of the situations makes him seem like your typical insecure kid. This doesn't mean he doesn't enjoy action, but he likes a more safe enjoyment of it. Look, he plays LARP. What a nerd. Real warriors play D&D 3.5 with a character sheet like Pelor intended. His sense of danger makes the action feel more impressive than it is. He's the typical brave character in spite of fear, a trademark that could get boring over the time without development. But there are some examples of this kind of character working. To be fair, there's some growth in him. But the cancellation of the series left us with his arc incomplete. Julie embraces danger in a more emotional way, since her suspense comes from being caught by her father. This is why her vehicle has a more sneaky approach, while still making a confrontation, representing her misleading both her friends and family, but still approaching them directly. Dodge is the one I found the less action focused, since he's the mechanic and the artist of the group. Since he's the one responsible for everyone's car design, I will say his enjoyment of danger is materialized through his art, which is something I seriously relate to. Finally, the one, the only, Texas! A full embodiment of what makes action the only genre we need in this world. Drama? Who needs that? Kung Fu is what you need. Your life is going bad? You just need to Texasify it. The way to world peace is 20 more Fast and Furious films, another 500 episodes of Dragon Ball, and full karate training instead of regular education. Texas is the elixir of life. Praise the one-liner god Texas. Okay. Back to the point. The amount of antagonists on this series also gives a sense of multiple threats. And the one that embodies this the most is the Duke. Oh man, I love this character. He's the embodiment of greed, and his representation of action comes from bets. He believes in making your actions, not your words, do the talking. He represents a more stylized and fashionable approach, but also embodies the trickery behind action entertainment. The pacing in these episodes is amazing, and is meant to represent everything in it. Unfortunately, this can only be said from an episodic perspective, since the main plot falls into the common practice of really slow development. The characters are interesting enough in these fast-paced situations, but once they are over, you end up with a lack of progress in the overall plot, which is something most of these shows lack focus on. If you enjoy action entertainment, this series will do for you, since all the visuals are awesome to look at, and the premises are simple enough to make you focus on the fights. The fact that this series was fully made on Flash animation is a statement of how good animation is the result of using your resources the best you can, and not completely due to budget. Intense scenes can be accomplished with the simplest of tools. Most action animated shows in the West are comic book adaptations, so a completely new series is something I truly appreciate. There's nothing wrong with that, and some of my favorites came from this perspective, but it is refreshing watching an adventure series with a heavy focus on action not being about superheroes. It looks like Titmouse is willing to revive this series, so let's hope they deliver an even better second season in the near future. This has been the All-Arounder Geek, Master of Nothing, Apprentice of Everything, and remember, this is an amazing time to be alive.